Thank you so much for waking up with us, for staying with us, and we are so delighted to welcome two, well, what I would call points of light in our community to the hour. Folks, you've all heard of Dennison Memorial, and you've all heard about all of the good that it does. We're going to focus on some of that good with a special event, but first let me start by welcoming not only a point of light, but somebody who has done so much in our community, from mentoring children to mentoring businesses, from the Chamber of Commerce to teaching kids and helping kids. Jim Mathis, the great Jim Mathis.
I would say that.
And I mean that. You are a point of light, Jim. Always have been a public servant. You've served on committees. You've always been there for people. That's who you are.
Yeah, pretty blessed life.
You are blessed.
This is a great place to live and easy place to be involved, and really very much enjoyed my life in New Bedford.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So, from the Chamber, you've done other things. You've had Smiles, the founder, the brainchild of Smiles, mentoring.
Yeah,
Right?
Smiles is still going, doing well.
Absolutely.
Schools all over the South Coast, New Bedford and Fall River. Some of the towns have the mentoring program. 2 years ago, started working with this guy, with Sean Hargraves, down at Dennison Memorial Community Center, and it's been an incredible ride. I really I admire Sean and another guy we work with by the name of Joe Neves. The entire staff, the team of folks we work with, are terrific, working with hundreds of kids in the south end of the city. But in particular, this guy right here, he built a heck of an organization down there. I'm lucky to be part of it.
We're lucky to have Sean here in the studio. Good morning, buddy.
Hey, Phil.
Great to see you again.
Thanks for being here.
You're a pro at this now, all right?
Yes, I feel like it.
Yes, you are. Dennison Memorial goes back, what, over 100 years.
The 1850s.
Oh my gosh, in the 1850s.
That's one of the oldest nonprofits in the city.
I would probably think elsewhere too, probably the state, but that is amazing.
It was incorporated in 1868.
Yes. A lot of folks need to be reminded of Dennison Memorial and all the good that you do. Tell folks, your mission, just in case they don't know, Sean.
From when we began, we served many of the immigrant population that were coming across to work in the factories and that needed social services, and there were none available at the time. Over the years, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, we've sort of honed our interest into just children's activities. Most people that are older will remember it as what was always called the City Mission.
Yep.
In the 70s, we changed the name to Dennison Memorial Community Center. And now our focus is all children all the time, with a few adult programs off it.
Right. And since Jim Mathis has come on board a couple of years ago, you say,
Yeah,
Jim?
been about 2 years, yeah.
Tell us about the development of Dennison Memorial over the last 2 years.
Well, for me, I'll cut in on Jim here to describe what he's meant to the organization. Fundraising has always been one of the hardest things to do for any nonprofit.
Sure.
Especially for me, where I don't feel like I'm a natural salesperson, or when we were able to get people in the building and they saw it and what we did, it made it a lot easier. Jim had such an outgoing personality. He was a perfect ad for Dennison. He's the president and CEO. He's just a shining light that really brought a whole new life to Dennison when financially we were not in a good position. And the Dennison Dribble is one of his examples of marketing and getting our name out there.
You have the master here. You know that.
He is the master.
I can see you now like the masters in the movies there.
Actually, I have to tell you that I said to Sean and said to Joe Neves and the board members that were at Dennison at the time when I began, that I didn't see it as being a difficult sell, because Dennison does such great work. I mean, it's a critical agency in providing support to hundreds of kids in a part of the city that need it more than in my opinion, any other part of the city or a region. It's a tough neighborhood, and Dennison is an oasis for those kids. And Sean and Joe and the folks who've been there for a long time, they built a beautiful facility. We have a modern gymnasium. We have a wonderful community center that also has a secure daycare facility. And under Sean's leadership, they built that thing with no mortgage. They raised all the money it took to put those facilities up. I got to step in and just work on helping keep the doors open and hopefully some more kids can come in. So it wasn't a difficult sell at all. What you had said earlier, I think, though, is insightful in that everybody does know about Dennison, has a strong brand. I knew about Dennison. But one of the things that I found over the past 2 years is how few people really know Dennison because they've never been in the building. Unless it's your destination, it is not on a beaten path. So you're not going to go by it. You're not even going to see it.
Sure.
Because from Route 18, visually, it's for the most part blocked by the Orpheum Theater building. So part of what we want to do too is get more people into the building so they see what we're doing with the hundreds of kids who come in there every day.
And how are you going to do that? And that segue into a very special event, Jim.
Yeah, last year this was our second Dennison Dribble. Last year we had our first one actually at the facility and realized while it was going on that it was way too big for us to hold there. Not because of the physical ability of the center and the gymnasium, we just don't have adequate parking down there. We had probably 250 people there, probably 150 to 200 cars. So we had to have them parked all over the south end and then bus people just to get them there.
Sure.
So this year on March 12th, Saturday, March 12th, at New Bedford High School from 9:30 to 1 is the Dennison Dribble. It's a fundraiser where last year we were able to gross $32,000 and we netted nearly that amount. It doesn't have a lot of expenses associated with it. This year we already have in hand over $35,000, and we're hoping that the day of it'll go really well. Maybe we'll push ourselves up to $40,000 or more. And it's a critical event in developing support to keep the building open so we can continue to provide services to those kids. Because we only charge, for a kid to be a member of Dennison all year, for a year, it's $5. And if a family can't afford that, and there are families, if they have 3 or 4 kids, and so it would be $15 or $20, there are families for whom $20 is a lot of money. And if we know that, or if Sean knows the family and that's the case, then they, we have folks who've already provided scholarships so those kids can come in at no cost to the family.
I hope this is going right to your hearts, folks, not your ears, because this fabulous facility is filled with heart and goodness for our children, and 2 of the best right here. How can the community help support? What can we do to help make the 2nd annual Dennison Dribble, that I love the name of, by the way, even more successful?
They'll be able to show up at the event. There are pledge sheets that are online on Dennison Memorial Community Center Facebook page and on our website, DennisonCommunity.org, that they can just click and download. Most of the people go, we do 20 laps around. There are hundreds of people, and it's so much fun. When Jim described it last year, what he wanted to do, I couldn't imagine. I knew what he was talking about, but the day of the event, when we had these hundreds of people dribbling around in the gym and all of our kids were doing it, it was so much fun. It was shocking how much fun it was. And I couldn't imagine. I'm sure he had it all in his mind, but so if people could get a pledge sheet or just show up themselves, some people get 50 cents a lap that they go around, or corporate sponsors. There are sponsorships available for companies, a corporation. There are special events. We're going to have some of the kids up there for the finals of the 3-point. We always have a hot shot basketball.
Oh, nice.
So we have a 3-point contest, and then Jim came up with a couple of ideas for other events during that day.
The main thing is that it's like a walk-a-thon, only it's a dribble-a-thon. So everybody who's there, so we're hoping to have 350 to 400 people this year. Beautiful. All of them will have a basketball. All of them will be dribbling their laps around the Beardsworth Gonzalez Gymnasium at New Bedford High School. It is very noisy. They're all having fun. But they do their 20 laps, and they've been getting pledges per lap or flat donations for people to sponsor them and support them. And like Sean said, you can go to the Dennison Memorial Community Center Facebook page, and you can get a form right there. You can call the office, and we'll email one to you, or you can come pick one up. But it's only by having folks show up that day, that's what really helps us, and through their participation. Everybody is going to get a T-shirt. We're going to have a lot of fun. The other two things that Sean's talking about is we're going to have basketball games. One is going to be a Legends game. Buddy Thomas at the Standard Times recently did his top 20s list.
Right, I saw it.
So Jerry Kavanaugh has been involved with this from UMass Dartmouth. He's part of this, and he and Sean have been calling people who are off that top 20 list, who played for teams where the kids could have come from New Bedford. So kids who went to New Bedford High or Holy Family or Voc Tech or even Bishop Stang could be New Bedford kids who used to play at Dennison in many cases are being asked to come in to play in a Legends game. We also have a number of women who are, there was no top 20 list for the women basketball players, but we've identified a number of women who are also going to play, so it'll be a co-ed game involving some true basketball legends from New Bedford. And then we'll also...
When is this going to be, Jim?
That's going to be...
That's that day.
Yeah, it's Saturday, March 12th. It starts at 9:30.
Yeah.
The basketball games we're planning on starting at around 11 a.m.
Okay.
And then there will also be a celebrity game where, you know, the mayor is committed to play. Some of the folks from our sponsors, from our board of directors, are going to make up a team,
Yep.
and they're going to play against kids from Dennison.
How awesome. I want you to mention the sponsors. It's so important that we embrace them and thank them.
Well, you know, Bristol County Savings Bank is our title sponsor. You know, they got on board right away last year. They were actually the first people we talked to, and they have been very generous and very supportive. They'll also have a team there that day. Bay Coast Bank is another of our major sponsors. And then beyond that, we have, I think, you know, another, I'd say, 30 sponsors.
Beautiful, beautiful.
But those are the two
Yeah.
really big ones.
And folks, you know, anyone who has been personally touched by Dennison Memorial, maybe you played there as a child or whatever you can do to help out, now is the time. You know, it's events like this that really need your support. And once again, this is happening on Saturday, March the 12th. And it's going to be held at the high school.
At New Bedford High School, yeah.
New Bedford High School.
Plenty of parking.
Oh, yeah. Oh, plenty.
And
of
we have
parking.
use of the other gyms.
Right.
Some of the legends that may be older and not want to play
Yes.
are able to offer clinics to
Oh, how nice.
children.
Yes.
And, you know, there are some people that may just want to show up just to see that game and not dribble, and, you know, they could just come in. There's not an admittance fee
So
for
a
that, so they
donation.
could just make a
A
donation.
donation from your heart.
And you know, the two leading, I'm always saying, Eddie Rodericks from New Bedford High School, the longtime player and coach,
Yes.
and Brian Baptiste really grew up as Dennison kids in the 60s playing in a tiny little Dennison gymnasium.
Yeah.
And they will always mention that. So they will be on the starting teams along with Marcus Wills, Marcus
Yes,
Helpman,
yes.
you know, a lot of the best
Oh,
from New
love it.
Bedford.
Love it.
In a friendly game.
Of course, the energy is positive, and folks, the support that you give also is going to be, I can already tell you, it's going to be a very, very beautiful success for you. You can go online at Dennison Memorial Community Center. You can also, I'm sure you can send in a check if you don't, some of you don't have computers, so you can send in a check, obviously.
Yep.
And what's the address, by the way?
755 South First Street in New Bedford, 02744.
Okay. Before I ask for, you know, your final thoughts here, and anything I didn't ask that you'd like to include, give us just one story, Sean, about a real child whose life has been touched by Dennison Memorial Community Center.
That's not a tough question. It's tough to
Pick one.
pick one. You know, like,
That's even better.
you know, when I first began there 34 years ago, you know, one of the first kids I met was Julio Rivera, who lived in the Ben Rose Housing Project, the youngest of 13 children, came to Dennison, you know, was a great kid. You know, we don't have to mention how impoverished they would be or anything like that. he became, you know, he was a great kid, a great athlete, we ended up hiring at 15, at age 15, 16, to be like a helper with us. He went on to become a New Bedford police officer, a juvenile detective, the DARE officer. You know, in his 30s, he had a heart attack, which disabled him for a while. We never, you know, it was a shocking surprise. He is one of the first people, he was the first person in Massachusetts to give up a full disability retirement to come back to being a regular patrol officer. And what he wanted was our area. So the patrol unit he's assigned to is Dennison. So he stops in all the time. He's a great role model. All the kids know him. You know, he's just done so much from, you know, a success story.
Yes.
You know, there's financial success, there's like life success. You know, I hope he picked up some of the values from Dennison. That's always what we hope for.
Sure.
But just to see people like that, and there's thousands of stories that I could tell similar to that, of people that overcame odds.
He'll be at the Dribble. He's coming to the Dennison Dribble.
Wow, this is, you know, the inspiration that Dennison Memorial has given for so many decades, folks. This is why your support is welcomed, is needed. Jim Mathis, before we say thank you for who you are and what you do here, anything I didn't ask that you'd like to include?
Well, I do. There's one sponsor I should have mentioned earlier too when you asked about this. We have a company in the area called Talking Rain, and it's you know, 0-calorie waters, and they stepped up big time to become one of our financial sponsors, and they're also going to be there that day.
Talking Rain.
Yeah, so nobody's going to be, you know, worried about being able to get something to drink while they're there. And I've had it, the product, and it's good. You know, they'll enjoy that.
Nice.
And then a number of others, but it would be tough to go through the entire list. All I would say is that, I mean, I went to Dennison pretty much knowing the organization and what they were, and I've been able to be there. And so the perspective when you're in the building and when you're interacting with the kids, you know, becomes real life.
Right.
Many of these kids don't come from the world that you and I come from, and a lot of the folks who listen to this show come from. When I said earlier it's an oasis for these kids and for their families know when the kids are at Dennison they're safe and they're involved in structured activities. They don't just play basketball or play pool. We also help them with their homework. They do arts and crafts. They go onto computers to do research in some cases. So that they're having fun, they're learning, and they're in a structured environment with a lot of good role models who are there. I told Sean and Joe Neves and others on day one that Dennison, I didn't think Dennison would be a tough sell. I thought that it's an organization that really is worthy of support. Being there now for 2 years, it's just perfectly clear. There are a lot of great causes in New Bedford. There are none who I would say are better causes than Dennison. But because we're where we are, we're kind of hidden. A lot of people don't know us. Come to the center and check it out. More importantly, come to this event and help us out. Because without that help, we're not able to do it.
Sean, my last question for you is, I want you to step away as, you know, your official capacity. How has Dennison Memorial changed your life personally?
Well, you know, it is, you know, I could not have ever chosen a greater place to spend my life. You know, like, I see the things that happen to children. You know, I think what's happened to me with compassion and love, you know, you and I share the same, we hug every person we see. I think that's a great connection with kids. You know, just the little, a lot of the little things, you know, like the Julio Rivera story is a big story. Every day it's something, and I always say, you know, like, if you can go to bed at night and put your head on the pillow and just think of something that you did that day to somehow, I don't want to say help mankind in a big way, but, you know, when you get, and I have that feeling constantly of, the love of the children and back from the children. You know, it couldn't be a better experience.
I don't think anyone could have relayed the message better than that. Thank you so much to both of you, and I mean that from my heart. Ladies and gentlemen, will you show up? This is such a fabulous cause. Jim, once again, the venue and the day.
It's going to be at New High School in the Beardsworth Conference Gymnasium, Saturday, March 12th. That's a week from this coming Saturday. It's going to be 9:30 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon.
And may all of the very best of success follow you today and always for what you are. Where you're going with this, what you do for our community. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you for having us,
Sean and Jim. Thank you, folks. We'll be back. More coming up. We have a national guest joining us, and that's coming up in a minute.